Thank you. One more. And Corey, we still have a signal here. You're trying to connect to audio. Or maybe they're not on audio.
Okay, so we are recording and streaming, Madam Vice President.
So Paul, Clerk Santafanti, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are, Madam Chair.
Very good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Waltham City Council. Tonight is Monday evening, December 21, 2020. The time is 8:02. And this meeting is taking place remotely for all members and can be viewed on the City of Waltham's YouTube channel live at the following link. I have the link. I guess you just have to go to the city and find it. And it is being filmed by Waltham's WCAC. And with that, I will ask the clerk, if the clerk would please call the roll of the Committee of the Whole.
President Brasco,
Present.
Councilor Darcy,
Present.
Councilor Dunn,
Present.
Councilor Durkee,
Present.
Councilor Harris,
Present.
Councilor LaCava,
Present.
Councilor LaFosse,
Present.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Present.
Councilor Mackin,
Present.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Present.
Councilor O'Brien,
Present.
Councilor Paz,
Present.
Councilor Stanley,
Present.
Councilor Vidal,
Present.
Vice President McMenamin,
Present.
15 present.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. On our agenda that I'm looking at, I'd like to ask for someone to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 7th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Who said that? Council McLaughlin?
Yes, sure. Yep.
Fine. Council McLaughlin makes that motion. On the motion, are there all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed or object? The ayes have it. We have one new matter, and then before we go any further, I have a number of circumstances I wish to work with the committee on. So let me first ask the clerk if he would read the first new matter, and I have to do something with it once he reads that.
A request from the mayor for the approval of a loan authorization in the amount of $375,000 for improvements to Prospect Hill Park. This matter is to be combined with the $1.6 million loan authorization currently tabled in the Committee of the Whole.
So the first thing I'm going to do, Councilor Fosse, are you on? You are. Would you unmute? Thank you. I'm going to ask if you would make a motion to take the matter of 11/27/2017 in the Committee of the Whole off the table.
I will make that motion.
Thank you very much. Councilor Fosse makes a motion to take the matter of 11/27/2017, which is the matter and all of its status comments, the matter regarding the loan authorization in the amount of $1,600,000, providing design and construction for the improvements of Prospect Hill Park. You all understand the sense of that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Opposed or object? The ayes have it. Now, Councilor Fosse, could I ask you to make a motion to combine the matter that you just took from the table of the $1,000,006 with the new loan authorization in the amount of $375,000, so that we will have only one matter regarding this entire situation on our Committee of the Whole docket? Will you make that motion?
I will make that motion to combine the two matters so that there's only one.
Thank you very much. You all understand the sense of that motion. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed or object? There are none. The ayes have it. Now we have before us in the Committee of the Whole The two matters of both loan authorizations, one in the amount of $1,600,000, the other in the amount of $375,000 for the design and construction of the improvements of Prospect Hill Park. Councilor LaFosse, would you like to make a motion to hear from all off-committee members on this matter?
Yes, I would, please. I'd like to make that motion.
You understand the sense of the emotion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, I think the mayor is here, but also Mr. Nick Abruzzi, the Director of Parks and Recreation, is here. Are you here, Nick?
I am, yes.
Yes, so could you explain to the committee of the whole a little bit about the history of the 1.6 and then the new matter of 375,000 regarding Prospect Hill Park? Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. I hope all is well with you and your families. Thanks for allowing me to be here tonight to request the funding for the base area improvements to Prospect Hill Park. Back in 2017, I appeared requesting 1.6 million for design and construction for Prospect Hill. It was tabled at that time. We've since come back now with the 1.6 that was tabled and added the 375 to that so that we could fund the bid that came in for the project, or the base area project at Prospect Hill Park. An email was sent to you last week through Mr. Centofanti with renderings of the proposed improvements. The design was completed by Headland Design Group, and a bid opening for a contractor was held on September 30th, 2020. Green Acres Landscaping, who's done many of our projects in the city in the last 5 or 6 years, was selected for the project. The total amount request includes contractor bid as well as playground equipment and signs for the project. We separate these items out because we can get better pricing through grant programs if we buy the spray park and playground equipment separately. It saves the city a lot of money. The main focus of the project, as you'll see in the handout, includes new signage in a parking lot, in the front parking lot being completely redone, splash pad, a new playground for 2 to 5 and 5 to 12 years of age, multi-purpose court for pickleball and other activities, a new pavilion for hosting big events and programs, new picnic area with tables and grills at the base, improved drainage, which I think is probably the biggest amenity that we're looking to improve upon up at the site. And then the sledding hill will be, an amenity will be added to add sledding back up to Prospect Hill. We'll be carving out an area to allow for sledding up at the hill. I believe these improvements will create wonderful amenities for people of all ages and offer both active and passive recreational opportunities for all. And I just want to thank you all for your consideration.
Before I turn it over for questions, the one question I have to ask you,
Sure.
Mr. Abruzzi, is what role and what authority in this matter does the Park and Recreation Board play?
Same as all our projects. We this was taken through the Parks and Recreation Board. It was approved prior to going out to bid, so they approved this.
And they have the authority to do that.
Yes, they do.
They do. So let me see. The first, do I have anybody who wishes to ask any questions or make any statements? I see. Let me see here. I see Councilor Paz. Your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I am deferential to the Ward 1 councilor. If he'd like to ask questions first, I can go after, but I'm happy to ask now.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Councilor Fosse, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. First and foremost, I'm looking at the total breakdown of cost comes down to a total of $2,056,383, but the funding that's being requested is $1.975 million, a difference of $81,000. Is there extra money someplace else to make up this difference?
My letter, the number you first quoted or just mentioned was my number that I wrote to the mayor, which builds in unforeseen conditions. And then the mayor, takes my letter and then amends it and sends it on to council. So that would really be the difference in the money that was taken back for unforeseen conditions. That's not uncommon.
Okay, so is there a chance that you'll be coming back for additional money at some point?
I mean, there's always a chance. You just never know what you're going to find underground with utilities and with work. But I mean, we have a pretty good history of not having to do that. So,
Okay. My next question kind of goes back a year ago during campaign season. Obviously, Prospect Hill being right in the middle of Ward 1. It abuts many of the neighborhoods. And the one question that I got a lot of was, what is the plan for Prospect Hill besides base camp? I know that there was a master plan dating back to 1997.
yep.
Is there going to be, or is there communications already about upgrading that master plan to 2021?
The designers that we had on board for this project utilized the master plan as we did in putting the design that you see before you. Moving forward with improvements, I've spoken to people when they've asked questions. A lot of times it's the same person who asked the questions about the master plan. And my answer to that is that, you know, when the appropriate time comes for future phases in the park, or if there's, if you want to call it phases or additional pieces to this component, you know, I think the feeling is that we're not going to seek out opinion from the public, but the plan, we always derive all the information that we get based on public feedback on these projects. We started this process with a public meeting. Subsequent to that, we had renderings put up on our website to allow people to view. We would do the exact same thing as we move forward to future opportunities in the park. So we definitely would utilize the master plan that we have. I feel like the base area improvement, and I said this at the public meeting in front of everybody, is the most important piece at this point because of the drainage issues that occur. Anyone that's been up there during a rain, just a mild rainstorm, notices the need for the improvement at the park to have any type of amenities. So this is going to be an upgrade at the base area. And I love Prospect Hill. I started my first days in Waltham. I was situated up at the offices up at Prospect Hill Park. I love the location. I'm passionate about it. So my plan isn't to stop at the base area, and, you know, we'll take the future improvements in a similar way that we did this one. We're going to seek out public input and combine that with a lot of the work that we've done in the last couple of years beyond this base improvement plan. We've done a ton of work in the park in the last 3 years, maintenance-wise, working on trails, eradicating poison ivy, coming up with plans for trail maintenance, a forestry management plan that we embarked upon, which I think is a huge benefit and asset to the city of Waltham that we got based on grants. So there's been a lot of work there, and we'll continue to work to make Prospect a gem in the city.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you had basically touched on a couple of my other points where residents are, you know, the base camp is going to be beautiful. It'll be the gateway to the park. But along with this project, are there low-hanging fruits, if you will, of other smaller maintenance things, say broken benches in the park, or just a weekly schedule of like leaf maintenance on the roads during the fall, just so that as we attract more people to it, it is safe?
Well, that's something we can work with CPW. As you know, CPW handles the maintenance on the park. We do, having our park ranger on board for the last year has really helped us. If you talk to people, and I think some of the councilors made mention of this at the public meeting, they noticed a huge difference in the cleanliness of the park. And I can tell you from 100% that response times in the past where we've had to pass something on to CPW, we now have the ability, when we get a phone call from a steward or from just somebody that's walking through the park, we can send somebody right out to handle the problem or pass it on to forestry or pass it on to CPW, and we can become a conduit to get that issue resolved.
All right, and then the last question I have for you, Nick, you know, you've been very helpful here, is when you have the corporate businesses that abut Prospect Hill, I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of the building owners.
Yep.
Obviously, not being able to go to the gym with COVID, having that park in their backyard has been a blessing for the people that are in the office. are we able to reach, or have we reached out to Anchorline, Boston Properties, or any of the other businesses up there to kind of do a collaboration joint venture, if you will, in improving the park for both the city's residents as well as the businesses on the hill?
Yep, we've reached out to numerous groups, and in the past, prior to COVID, obviously, we've had some pretty successful collaborations with organizations to do cleanup days, to do cleaning up the park, whether it's at the base area, whether it's in the park. We've had walks that they've done through the park so that they agreed to do something for the city in return to allow them to do a walk or a 5K. That's something that we're working on. Obviously, with COVID, we couldn't do that. We did meet with a corporation that's very interested in doing some work once we get to the level of hitting the park, up in the park, beyond the base area. And I feel very confident with establishing the relationships that we already have that we'll be successful at that. So those conversations have been held.
All right, thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor LaFosse, thank you very much. My next speaker is Councilor Paz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've seen this matter tabled for a couple years now. Director, could you please explain what's the urgent need now? Like, why should we approve this now more than ever?
I think it should have been approved 10 years ago if I brought it, because I just think Prospect Hill represents, like I said before, it's a gem in the city. And I think we have a good track record of really revitalizing a lot of the playgrounds in the park or in the cities, which someone mentioned in an early meeting tonight, that someone that they talked to had moved to Waltham. A lot of it was based on the parks that we have. So I think it does a great deal for the community. I think it's really important for people right now with the pandemic. Obviously physical activity is a great thing, but mental and passive recreation right now is just as important, probably even more important. And Prospect Hill represents all of that. I'm very passionate, as I've said. I would have liked it 3 years ago, and if I don't get it now, I'll come back in 3 years, because if I have to, because I want to get this done, and I want, again, not to be the only step in the process. But right now we have a really beautiful design for the base area of Prospect Hill that I'm passionate about, and I'd like to see that move forward. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you. You mentioned having responding to a lot of public input. What kind of feedback is this specifically responding to that you've received?
So I'm sorry, can you clarify that? I don't understand.
So there is some concern about the need for having some more public input in this particular matter. I'm just curious what specific issues that you've seen raised by the public is this responding to? Is this solving?
I think, like I talked about earlier, like every other project we do, we start out with an opportunity for the public to come in and offer feedback on what they'd like to see. This project was a little bit different. We actually added a little more to this. Because of the scope and the size of the project, we had a public input process where we held a meeting, but then we followed it up and allowed people to, we put a survey out basically and asked what the needs were and what they really wanted to see. And then we took that and incorporated that into the design that you see in front of you tonight.
Do you have dates for those meetings? That'd just be helpful to know.
We had one meeting. I can get it for you. I don't have it off the top of my head now. It was in November. Okay. It was in November a couple of years ago.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. Okay. That'll be it for me.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. The next counselor I have on my list is Counselor Randy LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Abruzzi, I want to thank you for all of your advocacy on Prospect Hill. I did attend those meetings back in 2017, and there was a lot of public input. There was a lot of surveys, and there was a lot of speakers at the public meetings. And one of the things that came up was the massive amounts of poison ivy in the hill. And, as you know, I spend a lot of time up there jogging and walking. And I want to say, thank you very much. And I don't know if it's because of the addition of the park ranger or not, but the poison ivy this summer was much better than I've ever seen it. And I do agree with you as far as the water problems down at the bottom of the hill. Even in mild rains down the bottom of the hill, the base, it's just a giant puddle down there. So hopefully
Exactly.
that gets addressed in there. One other question, and I think the councilor from Ward 1 brought it up, a great point about the reaching out to the businesses. I know that the Duffy Brothers has a few, couple of large buildings that abut the property, and they've been great to work with when we did the parade. So I don't know if you want to reach out with them. I can make a connection.
That would be great. Yep.
That's one point. And then the other thing is as far as the washout goes on the roadway. So, there's some stuff that's, a continuous challenge, which is, the quantity of running water down the roadway on the side pretty much undermines the road. Water's a strong force. Do you have any plans so that, I know you guys have to deal with it frequently because it, washes out and undermines the road. Is there any plans in this to deal with it, or is that something that's at a later date?
Well, I think we're going to definitely start with that in this base area improvement. Right now, if you notice, as it comes down the hill, it hits a point right above the gate, basically, and gets backed up, and that's what causes it to turn right and go into the green grass area field at the base of the hill. We're looking to the whole left side. If you look at the design, is really going to be utilized for managing the water system, which I think would be a huge improvement, and adding relief to the areas where we have the issues with the backups. Once those are resolved, we're going to notice a huge difference. And then as we work our way up into the park at future opportunities, I think we continue to do the work to try to divert rain and water coming down the hill as best we can. But this, in my opinion, this will be have a huge positive impact on the water that you see. Like you said, just a moderate storm, that base area, the green grass at the base of the hill, very, very frequently floods. And not just that, it's when you're trying to run programs or people are trying to recreate just at the hill, you might have a small storm on a Friday and it might not be usable until Monday because of how wet it gets. So it's really, I think this will really have a major impact on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is the sledding, I'm excited about that, being that I grew up skiing there in high school.
Yep.
Great. You get dropped off there on a Friday night at 6 or 7 and ski all night, get picked up at 10 or 11. And
yep.
It was great. What's the sledding hill? Is it
yep.
Basically you just like a typical sled hill? You show up with your own sled and just
well, I think what we're going to do is we'll see how it comes together. But I think the design and the idea is the multi-use hill. Obviously, it's going to be great for sledding. We're also going to build in like a rack on the right side going up, so people have assistance walking up the hill. So it's not like they have to trudge back up the hill every time. There'll be some assistance to get them back up the hill. And utilizing something in that base area, I think would be great in the open space as people come down the hill. They'll be coming from an angle that would be safe for them to get to the bottom of the hill. We've seen some accidents over the year with people going up too high in the hill and coming down and going dangerously close to the building. So this will definitely be set up in a safe manner. So
perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate what you do down there, and
thanks,
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I know Councilor Vidal has his hand up, but Councilor Fossey, I'm going to recognize you first. Go ahead, Councilor Fossey.
Thank you, Madam Dean. Just basically listening to everything that I'm hearing, I'm very excited about the future of what Prospect Hill has for our community. And at this time, I'd like to make a motion for approval as a first reading on this motion.
Okay, we'll take care of that after Councilor Vidal is going to speak on your motion. Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak. And I'll start by thanking Mr. Abruzzi for the work he has done. He is always very thorough when it comes to rehabbing and doing work like this in all our parks, in all open space in the community. And thank you for doing that. And as you said, if you would have had a chance to do this 10 years ago, you would have done it 10 years ago. And I'm glad it's happening now. I'm glad I have a chance to approve this, be part of it, as I was part of the meetings that happened.
Yep.
In which we got plenty of feedback from people. And I was happy to hear that because a lot of people attended, not only from people from Ward 1, but from all over the city. And I was happy to see that because the input did come in. And a lot of that input was taken into consideration. And I'm grateful to see the councilor from Ward 1 is on top of things. He's able to get this under his leadership, this will happen. And I think it's going to be a great improvement, not only for Ward 1, but for the whole community. Now, the question that was brought up earlier, it was regarding the funding. And so we're going to get a $2,056,383. That's the request at this point, correct? Including the 100,000 unforeseen conditions?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Abruzzi, yes.
Yes. It's 1975 would be the total.
The total, okay.
Yeah. And that would be combining the 1.6 million plus 375,000.
Okay, all right. Just want to confirm that. Okay, 1.9. Perfect. Again, thank you very much, and thank you, Councilor Fossey, for your leadership here. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Vidal. You can lower your hand now. I did have somebody, I think that, Councilor McLaughlin, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Madam Dean. I'll be supporting Councilor LaFossey's motion to approve this. A couple of points I want to make. The parking improvements not only assist Prospect Hill Park itself, but it's still overflow parking for the rink. So any improvements on the parking is something that I think is an important part of this. Sorry?
No, I just said absolutely.
And another point is, and I think for those that don't regularly use the park or haven't been up there during a rainstorm, I don't think we can emphasize enough the problem with the runoff and the problem with the water. I mean, I've seen floods go down Taunton Pond Road coming off the hill. Any improvements to try to retain that water there is going to be a major improvement, both on the property and off. So that's money well spent right there. The last point I want to make is my family and I are very, very familiar with Prospect Hill Park. We utilize it throughout the year. I have 3 children who have participated in programs that have gone on at Prospect Hill Park. And I've said in our budget hearings, some of the best money that we spend, some of the best money that we authorize, some of the best money that the mayor recommends is through Parks and Rec. And I can't speak enough about the programs that you run and the operation that you run. And I look forward to voting in favor of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I got a comment from Councilor Patrick O'Brien. You'd like to make some comments, please? Councilor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to echo some of the comments made by previous speakers. My daughters have gone to summer camp up there in recent years and have really enjoyed it. In the mid-90s, my brother was involved in the committee that did a lot of the planning on the master plan that came out in '97. And, we've gone sledding up there. We really enjoyed that, and we've hiked up there. So I think, enhancing the park is going to be great for everyone. It's long overdue. And as Nick said earlier, with COVID, being able to go out and go for walks, particularly if you work up in that area or live in that area, is really important. So I'm going to be supporting this as we go forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Councilor. I will entertain anyone else who wishes to speak, and if not, then I would like to be able to speak from the chair, please. Thank you. So, Councilor Fossey, you are the recipient of a magnificent gift from a lot of people in the city over the last 40 years that I have been city councilor. And you're very fortunate that you are the lead speaker and councilor, to be able to make the motion that you made tonight. And all of the other councilors who just spoke, each of them brought something to the table regarding the Hill. And I'm happy for that, especially the fact that it is a crown jewel in a city 9 miles from Boston. And it is the highest point until you get out to the western part of the state. And I was on the council when first Arthur Clark, mayor, managed to convince somebody to donate some compressors. This is before the MWRA, some compressors to the base of the lodge and harness a rope tow, for which the youngsters in the city began a very minor, nothing is on the level of sophistication today, but a very minor approach to downhill skiing. But then it really was members of the city council, and I have to commend them, and in particular, Jim Regan, who was the foremost proponent, along with my former husband, Joe McMiniman, and many other people in the city, too many to name, Tommy Burke, Walter Walsh. They went to the Hill every weekend. They started at Friday night at when they get out of work, and on Sunday morning, 80 youngsters from the city of Waltham would compete for 5 years, would compete in ski races, some of which were downhill and others were giant slalom. Imagine a giant slalom on that, those two slopes. I actually raced, and I happened to beat Rena Pomelo. She and I were the only two in the race. I came in first just by a hair. But we had all ages of people on that hill skiing, all levels of ability, and the two Beers brothers, who basically built the lodge along with volunteer support from the city, from many of the men's clubs in the city who went up there and wielded a hammer and saw. The Beers brothers built that original building. And when they did that, they then opened up a donated ability for special needs and handicapped skiers to come up and try to learn how to ski. And they found used equipment for those people that they could come up and get fitted for boots and skis, and they would take them up a little way in the hill, and you've never seen anything as joyful for many of those young people and physically challenged people as they did for the year or two they were able to come just 9 miles from Boston and come down a hill on skis. So among the lay people in the community, I think I have to commend first and foremost Gloria Champion, who was the clerk of the Conservation Commission and a tremendous advocate. And I know I'm leaving people out, and to all of you, I apologize to that. It might be a little bit of my age at this point, but over the years, and I'm talking 40 years time, over the years, there were people in this city who found that to be the most wonderful recreational environment that any city could ever have. And when we got to Bill Stanley's mayoral 5 years, he followed through, and for 5 years, he managed to find resources, just like all of the mayors have done, that didn't cost a lot of money, but that enhanced the quality of life at the Hill. He managed to find those resources so that everybody in the city could go up there free, F-R-E-E, free. And so it's just been a wonderful, wonderful asset for all of us. My youngsters enjoyed the farm when Billy Coyle and the horses were in the farm, and Billy Coyle took care of them and advocated very much to keep that farm running. Imagine that, in the middle of the city, 9 miles from Boston. And no one could really believe, when we used to talk about it back 40 years ago, about all of the things that we had up there, people in the inner city just had no idea how lucky we were. So I wish to commend this city council. I wish to commend this mayor for bringing it finally, through the gate. And Mr. Abruzzi, you inherited a great beginning from Miss Place, and you have taken the reins and done a wonderful job with that. So I wish to thank everybody. I am thrilled to say I am going to add my name to the roll call whenever that call is made. So Councilor Fosse, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Dean. I'd like to make the motion for approval, please.
You've made that motion, so you all understand the motion for approval for the first reading. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, we're talking about the $1.6 million.
I think we're talking about, nope, the 1,975 million.
Well, there are two separate communications.
Yes, there are. I've combined them both to be able to be talked about at the same time. And the order I have here is for the 375,000. So how would you like to, excuse me a minute, how would you like to proceed, Clerk Santafanti?
Well, we need to vote on the $1.6 million authorization.
Okay, then
And
Councilor
separate voting.
Fosse makes that motion to approve that $1.6 million, and the clerk will call the roll, please.
I'm sorry, hold on, Mr. Sanafani, you need these on one order, right?
No,
You're gonna do two orders, so two ads in the newspaper?
correct.
Okay, just making sure, thank you.
President Brasco,
Yes.
Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Councilor Dunn,
Yes.
Councilor Durkee,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LaCava,
Yes.
Councilor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councilor Mackin,
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilor Paz,
Yes.
Councilor Stanley,
Yes.
Councilor Vidal,
Yes.
Vice President McMiniman,
Yes,
15 in favor, none opposed.
by your action, you have approved the loan authorization for the first reading in the amount of $1,600,000 that will go out to the full council next week. I'm sorry, for the first reading. The Councilor Fosse, you make a motion for approval for the second order in the sum of $375,000 for borrowing. Am I correct?
Yes, I do.
Clerk?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Yes. The clerk will call the roll.
President Brasco,
Yes.
Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Councilor Dunn,
Yes.
Councilor Durkee,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LaCava,
Yes.
Councilor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilor Mackin,
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilor Paz,
Yes.
Councilor Stanley,
Yes.
Councilor Vidal,
Yes.
Vice President McMiniman,
Yes.
15 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved that second loan order of $375,000 to be sent out to the full council for a first reading for next week. So by your action, you have basically moved on that matter. Now, if I may, I'm going to ask you to be patient because we're on Zoom and I'm going to try and do this as best I can because there's a lot of information for you that I'm going to present to you based on what I've done in the last week. So let's begin with, if I can. I'm going to go in chronological order on, just to show you, on this week's docket. I'm sorry, this week's, yes, committee docket, and it might be easier if I do it this way, in the committee of the whole. So I'm going to go down to the first meeting, I'm sorry, the first matter I wish to deal with. Councilor Paz moves to take the Chamber Security and Safety Resolution of May 14th, 2018 from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So we sent communication again to the law department to opine on this matter. And they sent a communication back that basically gave us the same opinion now 2 or 3 times. I'm sorry. And so what I should have had, this one was for Councilor Brasco. That's all right, Councilor Paz, you took it off the table. It's off the table and I'm discussing it. What I'm going to ask Councilor Brasco to do is we have the approval of the executive session minutes from February 3rd, 2020. That approved executive session set of minutes was sent to the law department for an opinion. The law department sent it back to us for basically for a release of the minutes. So this is what I'm going to ask before, and I'm going to ask Council Brasco to make this motion. So for next week, I am going to ask, there were 8 people present now who were present back in 5/14/2018. So only those 8 people really have a say on these minutes. They have been approved. They were sent to the law department. They're back. Councilor Brasco, I'm going to ask how you would like to handle this. I am going to ask next week for number 1, a vote to redact the minutes. On number 2, if the 8 members of the council now who are on the council back then do not wish to ask you to redact the minutes and then we will release them, then I am going to ask you if you will ask for a vote to release the minutes in their entirety. Do you understand what I just said, Councilor Brasco?
You're making a motion to redact the minutes based on the minutes that were approved or given to us from the city solicitor's office.
The city solicitor is not going to redact them. I'm going to ask you if you would redact them.
Well, it wouldn't be me that would redact them, but I will, a motion by you to redact the minutes of the approved, of the executive session minutes is a call of the 8 members who were present for that meeting. And,
yes. So I'm asking you to make that motion to see if those eight members wish to have the minutes redacted or if they wish to release them as is, because basically that's what the law department is suggesting to us. You do one or the other, redact them and release them, or just release them as is. So let's start with the redaction. Councilor Brasco makes a motion to redact the minutes of the executive session regarding council security and safety of February 3rd, 2020. On the motion, would the clerk call the roll of the members who were present at that meeting? Please.
Yes. Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councilor Mackin,
No.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilor Stanley,
Can you just clarify, is this a vote to redact or just release?
No, this is a vote to redact the minutes. If this fails, then I'm going to ask Councilor Brasco to make a motion to release them as is.
No.
Councilor Vidal,
Yes.
Vice President McMiniman.
Could you tell me the vote, please?
Sure. 1, 2, 3. 5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Well, we don't, I'm going to vote yes, that they become redacted. So now there's 6 in favor, 2 opposed. Unfortunately, based on that number, it does not reach the 8. I'm going to opine on this, President Brasco. This is, we're in very difficult territory here based on the Attorney General's response to us. If we did not reach the 8 in order to have the minutes redacted, then I fear that the motion has failed. Therefore, I will entertain another motion from President Brasco to release the minutes.
So moved, or the motion to approve of the minutes, non-redacted from City
Unredacted.
Council.
At which point I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Darcy,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Counselor Mackin,
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Counselor Stanley,
Yes.
Counselor Vidal.
Yes.
Does the chair wish to vote?
The chair votes, chair does not wish to vote, but she will vote, and the chair votes yes.
8 in favor, none opposed.
So by your action, you have voted to release the executive session minutes that were created on February 3rd, 2020 regarding the chamber's security and safety. I will wait till next week to ask for a motion to file that matter, since there's nothing else left in that box. So I'm going to go to the next page, please. And here's the Councilor Paz matter. So on 9/9/2019, that matter requests a Conservation Commission be heard in regards to their request to extend the city's Riverwalk. Now, that was done about 3 weeks before the election last year. That matter has been sent to the Law Department more than once. And finally, the last response we got this week from Mr. Rosati was basically from the lack of information and continuity. The Law Department is closed. That case, there seems to be no matter before us. So the response from the Law Department that the file is closed, based on that, I'm going to ask that Councilor Paz make a motion to file without prejudice the matter of 9/9/2019, requesting the Conservation Commission be heard in regards to their request to extend the city's Riverwalk. Councilor Paz, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, as long as it's without prejudice, yeah.
That's right. Thank you. Okay, so could I ask the clerk for a roll call vote on that as well, please?
President Brasco,
Yes.
Counselor Darcy,
Yes.
Counselor Dunn,
Yes.
Counselor Durkee,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor LaCava,
Yes.
Counselor LaFosse,
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Counselor Mackin,
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Counselor O'Brien,
Yes.
Counselor Paz,
Yes.
Counselor Stanley,
Yes.
Counselor Vidal,
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved the filing of the matter of the Conservation Commission without prejudice. The next matter I have, Councilor Mackin moves to take the matter of 8/3/2020 from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. This is the Route 117 Bridge Project. Now, last week I took the matter off the table. I asked the clerk of the meeting of that executive session of 8/3/2020, if you remember, it was a summer session. I asked Clerk Wilson to forward the minutes of the executive session to all members of the committee of the whole. And I looked at them. I would ask Councilor Mackin if you would make a motion to approve those minutes, and then I will ask you then if we can send them to the law department review to be sent back to us by next week.
Yes.
Councilor Mackin makes a motion that we approve the executive session minutes that was held on August 3rd, 2020, regarding the 117 bridge project. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We're all in the council at the time. Okay, opposed? None. Thank you. Councilor Mackin makes a motion to send those minutes to the law department for review with the possibility of sending them back to us for next week, and we will approve their release. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now we have a little issue here because there was a Scrivener's omission here. It should be right under that matter, a matter that says 89 Maple Street, and it got left off this particular docket. So what I'm going to do is ask Councilor Harris to take the matter, it was just an omission, but it's still there, to take the matter of 89 Maple Street from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make that motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Councilor Harris makes a motion. Did you all have a chance to read the minutes? I think we did. And Councilor Harris, do you make a motion for approval of the executive session minutes that was held on August 3rd of 2020?
I make that motion to approve those executive minutes.
Thank you. Councilor Harris makes that motion. You all understand the sense of the motion. All those in favor, please.
On the motion, on the motion,
Sorry, on the motion, Councilor Carver.
Madam Dean, I would like to make an amendment to these minutes after reading them.
Councilor Carver makes a motion. Do we need to go into executive session to make that amendment? Is it substantive, Councilor?
I do not believe so. I'm not the attorney. I wouldn't be one to say. However, I made some inquiries today. I was not aware that we were going to be approving these today, so I had not had a chance to put forward my amendments. So I apologize for that. I was under the impression these were not going to be sent somewhere else. So at this moment, I just would like to make sure what was said in that meeting is how I understand it correct.
This is
Madam Vice President.
Councilor Brasco.
Madam Vice President, these are executive minutes of a matter that was already debated, deliberated, and disposed of by the city council. Those matters of executive session minutes are going to be made public no matter what. The councilor from Ward 5 is looking to amend minutes for the record that will, of a matter that has already been discussed, as I mentioned. So any amendment at this point is suitable and I believe appropriate for this time before the release to the public.
Rather than take the time to send it to the law department for their review? We can do what we want to do here. It's not necessary.
If I may, Madam Dean, I am
Councilor
comfortable.
Carver.
I'm comfortable putting my recommendations, my amendments forward publicly right now. And I do not believe it will affect anything.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Councilor Brasco. Councilor Carver, you make a motion to amend the executive session minutes of 8/3/2020 that was held regarding the 89 Maple Street matter. What is your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Dean. The amendment reads that Councilor Carver was again adamant in his objection to eminent domain and urged there to be more attempts at settling this matter by the mayor and the city solicitor.
You'll provide that to the clerk in writing.
Yes,
You can send it electronically or however, but
I
please.
will send it momentarily.
Thank you very much. You all understand the sense of Councilor Carver's amendment to those executive session minutes.
Can that be repeated, please?
Sure thing. Councilor LaCava was again adamant in his objection to eminent domain and urged there to be more attempts at settling this matter by the mayor and the city solicitor.
Councilor Stanley, is that fine with you?
Yeah, I don't, yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. You all understand the sense of the motion. This, so on that amendment, I will take a roll call, please. Councilor Santafanti, would you please call the roll?
President Brasco,
Yes.
Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Councilor Dunn,
Yes.
Councilor Durkee,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LaCava,
Yes.
Councilor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councilor Mackin,
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilor Paz,
Yes.
Councilor Stanley,
yes.
Councilor Vidal,
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved that amendment to the executive session minutes of 8/3/2020. Councilor Harris moves to send those minutes to the law department for review, with the possibility of sending it back to the council next week for approval to be released to the public. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I have just one other matter, please, for information. Council President Brasco, I think I'm okay with this. It's very important that we do these two particular things this week, because we're in very difficult territory here. And so I just want to tell you for next week, on the very last meeting, since it's the last meeting of the year, and the very last matter on the full council is the open meeting law complaint of 3/23/2020 on the docket. And I'm going to ask that matter, it is the only matter that we have to attach anything we do regarding executive session minutes of the past. It's the only matter that we have to attach the minutes to. So I'm going to ask next week that be sent over to the 2021 council. But in that process, if you will, I have a point of information I'm going to give you here regarding that matter. So there are two sets of minutes that the clerk of the committee of the whole has. I am going to remind you of a little bit of information here. On January 3rd, a new Waltham of the year 2016, a new Waltham City Council was elected and inaugurated. The next day, if you remember, was January 4th. And that day began a quest regarding 554 Lexington Street that began on that day with a visit by the chief executive to unexpectedly to 554 Lexington Street. From that event, and as the wheels began to be set into motion, on 1/11/2016, there was a docket item, because I did this history this week, there was a docket item presented to us, and the specifics of the matter were there were 3 items combined in that docket item, the last of which was an item of 554 Lexington Street. That item went to the committee of the whole, which met the next week, January 19th, 2016. From January until April 4th, we had discussions regarding the matter, and other things occurred. As you know, we had communications and things ramped up, etc. On April 4th, 2016, the clerk of the Committee of the Whole, Clerk Centofanti, took minutes of the city council that went into executive session on 554 Lexington Street. Now, those minutes have never been approved by any member or even proposed to be approved, including by the complainant who made the complaint on the open meeting law. Those minutes could have been approved. They could have been set for review. Nothing ever happened to them, and we are in a dilemma. Next week, I will explain the dilemma to you by reading a particular language from the Attorney General's office attorney on this matter. This is what, and this is a public document. What the language is this: we, meaning the Attorney General, therefore order the City Council to identify and release to the public all minutes of executive sessions during which the council discussed strategy with regard to the city's civil action against the stigmatines, as well as documents and exhibits used in those executive sessions. In addition, the council must review all potentially relevant executive sessions that were conducted for the same purpose and release those minutes of those executive sessions as well. The Attorney General gives us 60 days to do that. So we worked on some of this 2 weeks ago on 4 sets from Councilor Vizard. I still have to go through the sets from the clerk himself, but these 2 sets present us with a terrible dilemma and a problem, because there are only 4 remaining members of the City Council who were at that session of executive session on April 4th. So, I'm going to, next week, I am going to suggest we do something with those minutes. I just want you to be prepared for that. And what I'm going to ask the clerk to do, because we have a council committee council. So what I'm going to ask the clerk to do as a point of information is send the 4 members of the committee, or the 5 members who are on the council at that, in that event, a copy of the minutes from the executive session of April 4th that I intend to deal with in the first meeting of the City Council, full meeting of the City Council next Monday evening. So the next matter has to do with the second set of minutes from that were never approved. Again, the City Council president never approved them at the time, the vice president never approved them, and the complainant never approved them or made a motion to approve them. So by default, they've remained in limbo. Well, we're not going to let that continue. At least I'm not, and I know you aren't. So on April 4th, 2016, I'm sorry, on May 21st, 2018, the clerk of the Committee of the Whole provided 10 I'm going to ask him also to provide the 10 members of the City Council with the minutes of that meeting for your review. I intend to take this off the table next Monday in the full City Council for at least either approval and then to send that off to the law department so we can finally dispose of this matter within the next 5 or 6 weeks. That is only my point of information. I think you all understand the urgency and the directive from the Attorney General's office. I appreciate your indulgence and your time as a 15-member board that we are. And with that, if there is no other matters,
Point of information,
I'm sorry,
point of information, Counselor.
Councilor Blank.
Thank you. Question. So who can vote to approve the executive minute meetings, and then who can vote to release them?
So only the members of the City Council who were present at each of those executive sessions will receive the minutes of the meeting. Thus our dilemma. So there are 10 members for the May 21st, 2018 meeting, but there are only 4 members for the April 4th, 2016 meeting. So I intend next week to work on that as though they will be the unofficially, and I'm going to name it exactly this, unofficially approved minutes that we will approve with only 4 members. And I've checked this out with the law department. This is basically our call and our responsibility, because it was our responsibility to do this back then, and we didn't. But it was also the members of the previous city councils that had the responsibility to, and they didn't. So as a result of all of that, the Attorney General in her urgency and order to us has said, you must release the minutes of those executive sessions as well. So we will take a vote to release them as unofficial minutes next week. And everybody can vote on that, but only those who were present at the meeting can vote approval of those minutes. If there are no other further questions, and if you wish to discuss this matter again next week, we will have that opportunity when I take this off the table in the first full city council meeting. Thank you for your patience and your understanding. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Councilor Fossey makes a motion to adjourn on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Thank you. And everybody stay safe and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Hanukkah, and all of the holiday that you can possibly enjoy. Please enjoy it on behalf of the 15 members. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Madam Chair. Finance will stay on this line and meet momentarily.
Ordinances and rules will meet immediately after finance on the same call. Thank you.
Mr. Sinafani, I'm letting you do your thing, so you tell me when you're ready.
Whenever you are, Mr. Chairman.
I believe all 5 members are ready. We're all here.
I'm ready.
All right. It is 9:09. We are live on Zoom, YouTube. I call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Would the will Kirk please call the roll?
Councilor Fossey,
Present.
Councilor Mackin,
Present.
Councilor McMiniman,
Present?
Councilor Vidal,
Present.
Chairman LaCava.
Present.
The first matter on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting, December 7th, 2020.
I'll make
Council-
a motion for approval.
Madam Dean makes a motion for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are approved. Thank you.
The next matter is a request for the mayor.
Excuse me, just a minute, please, Mr. Santafanti, before we get, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to hear from all off-committee members that were called here this evening.
You've all heard a sense of the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That has been approved. Thank you, Madam Dean.
The first matter on the agenda is a request of the mayor to accept a grant in the amount of $58,020 for the IT department.
Thank you, Mr. Sinafani. Do we have someone from the IT department on the line? There are a lot of people. I'm trying to scroll through.
I don't see.
With no one being here, what's the wish of the committee?
And I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry, I'm gonna make a motion.
He just came in.
I'm sorry?
I see, yeah, Mr. O'Coin, the IT director, is on the line. I see him here.
Thank you. I withdraw my motion.
As he's connecting, I think we shall wait.
Sorry about that. I was watching the full council on WC CAC, so took me a sec to switch over. I'm sorry.
Not a problem at all. Mr. O'Coin, thank you for joining us today. You are before us with this grant award. If you could speak to that, please.
This is a grant that our department applied for, the compact grant put out by the state. And it is for two purposes, really. The first purpose is to provide redundancy and backup to our current network. And then in addition to that, it's really an introduction of a more advanced wireless technology that will allow us to more cost effectively provide connections to our city's buildings. And if you look in the packet that I included, I believe it's a PowerPoint printout on page, or the 16th slide. There's a diagram on the 16th and 17th page. And that's really the before and the after. The first diagram shows you the fact that what our current infrastructure looks like now. It is the, we have a tree and branch topology. And what that displays is that Muni Center, Government Center, and City Hall are connected by the red. And that's the base of our tree trunk. Every building connected to our network somehow is a branch off of those three locations. And that's what we tried to display in that diagram. The next page has yellow connections that are not present now, but would be receiving this grant and continuing on with the project. That's a wireless connection that connects only City Hall, Muni Center, and Government Center. So I talked about replication and redundancy. Currently, if one of the red lines breaks, we're down on that portion of the city. The yellow would provide a redundancy so that if the red went down, right now we have to dispatch a repair team, repair the fiber, and restore connections. The yellow wireless connections, which is really done by antennas on the top of those three buildings. It's a site-to-site, point-to-point connection that provides the exact same type of connection as the red. So that's important. That was the first benefit. The second benefit I talked about was introducing this newer technology to more cost effectively carry data across our city. When I first started, most buildings were connected with the exception of the fire departments. And throughout the years, one by one, we've connected 8 fire stations, and it's very, very expensive. In the future, we would be able to install a 4th antenna up at Prospect Hill on a tower that's up there now. And then one by one, we could buy antennas on each of the city's building that have, which are most of them, by the way, that have a line of sight to Prospect Hill. And we would avoid fiber cable up on the telephone poles, which is what we have now. That's the first diagram, the red. So we've been watching this technology for some time now. It had 2 limitations up until recently. One is interference through either trees and or rain. Rain was a big problem with point-to-point connections. Those things have been mitigated to some degree, well, to a large degree, and we feel very confident through research and also small testing that if we could install these 3 antennas, we would benefit on those 2 points that I mentioned in the beginning. So the state thought it was a good idea, and they've granted us that money. Going forward, it would affect our operating budget because there would be some maintenance expense related to that antenna, but I think the payoff would be huge over time. So that's the essence of what we're doing, why we applied for it, why I think we won it. I think it was a great application, and the state thought so as well. So I'll open it up for discussion or questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Coin. Council Fossey, your hand raised from earlier still, or do you have questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. So the diagram that you were just referring to with the data centers, I just want to check, is all of the City of Waltham data stored on physical media in those 3 locations?
What do you mean by that question?
So if somebody's out doing their job day to day and they need to get access, they need to like query the data set that's available in one of those 3 locations. Is it? I'm sorry, there's a significant echo coming through.
I have no idea who that is. Mr. Joe, are we able to mute this person?
Is there an M. Justin who's speaking? Your box is green. Ah,
You're all set.
thank you. So the diagram has City Hall, Government Center, and the Muni Center labeled as data centers. And my understanding is that what this new technology is going to empower is for people to access that data from various locations in the city. Is that right?
Technically, no.
Okay.
The first diagram shows that from any one of those locations, we have connections to data now. The purpose of this particular grant is a matter of connection from building to building. If I'm working in City Hall and I wish to get to data in Government Center, currently I travel on that, you know, it's much more complex than that, but basically I travel on that red line that goes from City Hall to Government Center. That's where my data is passed back and forth. What this grant, what we're looking to do with this particular project only is to provide a second connection wirelessly without using fiber. So we currently have the ability to get to all that data. We're not emitting like a Wi-Fi network throughout the city. This is specifically to connect those buildings. And again, for the 2 benefits that I mentioned. I don't know if that answered your question.
It actually does clarify something for me, but I have 2 follow-up questions, which is the data that you're accessing, is that only stored in one location in the City of Waltham?
It depends what data it is. It's decentralized. We don't have one. Those 3, it's a good question. Those 3 locations each have a significant portion of our data.
Okay. So is any of our data,
Go ahead.
is any of our data stored on like a cloud server somewhere, or is it just in places that are under the physical control of the government of the City of Waltham?
The day-to-day activity is within that diagram that you're looking at. If you remember last year, with council's approval and support, we implemented a backup system that provides a complete replication locally to the network. And then also, to address your other question, I think, it provides 2 other cloud copies of our major data system. One in Utah and one in Pennsylvania.
Great. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. So then the new system that you're setting up, is it functionally an intranet where it's not open public facing to the internet? It's only queryable through the City of Waltham computers?
Again, this is to connect the buildings. It's just a second path. In other words, to drive from City Hall to Government Center, you would travel, well, assuming there's no one-way parts of Lexington Street, but you would travel down Lexington Street. What this is doing is this is creating a second road from City Hall to Government Center, and Government Center to Muni Center, and Muni Center to City Hall.
So if I follow on your analogy, those roads connecting those 3 points, are those roads only available to City of Waltham authorized users, or are they facing the public so that anybody with a functional car could drive on the road and get to where our data is?
The former.
Okay.
Only, this is only for, now, that's not to say in the future,
Mhm.
we wouldn't have wireless people authenticated into our network and therefore able to get to the data. But whomever is on our network at the time, this would allow for two paths rather than one.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So I just have one more question that is not directly related to this application, but I hope the chair will indulge me. Does the city of Waltham use SolarWinds for any of our IT management or systems?
We do.
Have we taken steps already to close some of the gaps that were exposed with that massive hack that's been making the news?
We disabled them, and we're working with SolarWinds and some other resources to find out what their, our vulnerability at this point is limited to what has been done in the past. We've taken those services down, but we can't do without those services for, forever. We need to either replace them or restore our confidence in their products.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge for a lot of organizations over the next few months and possibly years, but I appreciate that we're being responsive to it. So at this time, I'd like to move approval of this grant. Thank you.
Councilor Mackey makes a motion for approval on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. O'Coin, thank you for your time this evening with us.
Thank you, and have a great holiday to all.
You as well.
The next matter is a request of the mayor to accept a grant in the amount of $7,500 for fleet management software for the CPW department.
Mr. Chasen, our director of our CPW, is on the line with us. Good evening, Mr. Chasen. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. This grant was from our insurance company, Maya, and it's to purchase software for fleet management, which we currently don't have any. So this will work with an existing software program we have that we use for our 311 system. So it's something we're used to using, and so that was why the price was.
Let me get through this.
What I thought was inexpensive to be able to track. We have over 250 vehicles that we maintain. And if you have any questions.
Was everyone on the committee able to understand that? I apologize, Mr. Chase, and I think your connection was being interrupted. We should have had Director O'Coin on the line with us for that. Now, does anyone on the committee have questions? I'm not sure we're all able to hear that for Mr. Chasen.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chasen dropped off, and I think he's trying to reconnect.
It was hard to hear, Mr. Chair. I couldn't really hear.
I would have to agree with you. I will entertain a motion while he's trying to reconnect. I will entertain a motion to table until he's back on.
There he is.
Oh, here he is, Mr. Chasen.
He's partially back.
I'm back. Sorry.
Better than ever. So you definitely broke up a bit during that. If you could please give us another quick rundown, that would be much appreciated.
So this was a Maya grant through our insurance company for $7,500. It is a software program for fleet management so that we can track maintenance on the fleet. We have over 250 vehicles and pieces of equipment. So it's not new software. It is, we have a program, or I don't know what, not software, but works with our iWork system, which is our 311 system. So it's something we're used to working with. So it should be an easy transition. So we recently had put, we have a new person in charge of that division, PVD, and a new assistant or an assistant superintendent that is kind of taking control, and something that he was looking to do. And this grant came up, so we went for it and we got it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Chason. On committee, I have Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chason, for staying here tonight and going over this with us. This is only for software, correct? There's no hardware or any sort of machines or equipment that needs to be installed in our equipment or trucks or vehicles, correct?
Correct. No, it's all web-based, and there's nothing that at this time would go into the trucks.
Okay. Would this $7,500 be enough to cover our fleet, or is it something that we need to come up separately, or you need to come up out of your own budget to finish up the cost, or this is plenty of money for it?
No, so for this year to get it, uploaded, and part of our existing package is the 7,500, and we'll get the vehicles, fuel log tracking put on our existing system. So that would be for year one, and then, going forward, it'd be something we'd have to fund for a yearly subscription.
Okay, so you will have to, so this is, you get a free first year, I guess, and then after that, you need to make this part of your budget moving forward?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. That was my only questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chason.
Thank you, Councilor Vidal. Councilor LaFosse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Chason. With 250 vehicles, part of that 7,500, is the software company going to help us implement and upload all the information? Or is this software more limited to whatever information we put in?
So in the past, working with them, they have been able to take all our existing information and put it in there. We did it with all of the recycle carts that were delivered. They were able to take existing information and plug it into the program, so that later on we could generate, to see who had what carts. And as we continue now to pass them out when people ask for them, and we track it that way. So it would be similar to that, where they would take that information and put it in.
So then in actuality, this $7,500 investment should, in theory, increase our investment in equipment and vehicles for your department moving forward?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Councilor LaFosse. Off committee, I have Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Quick question. Is this a GPS tracking system? Is it real time, or is it have anything as to the location of vehicles, or is it more of just a maintenance program?
It's just a maintenance program.
And do you have any vehicle tracking, or not at this time?
We have, it's a union issue. So we have a system that we want, and we're just dealing with it through the unions to get them installed, or to be able to install them.
Yeah, and we added it on our vehicles. Same thing. Insurance company recommended it, and it's called Fleetmatics. It's real-time tracking, and it straightened out so many issues, and it seemed to us that the loudest people were the biggest abusers, but sounds like that's a different evening. So I thank you very much for answering those comments.
Anytime.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. What is the wish of the committee?
No approve.
Councilor LaFosse makes a motion for approval. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are approved. Mr. Chason, thank you for the quick rebound on your connection and being with us tonight.
I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, you have the next one in front of us. I apologize.
That's okay.
Didn't realize that was you.
The next matter, Mr. Chairman, is a request of the mayor for an appropriation of $7,500 from the cemetery sale of lots and graves account to purchase a casket lowering device and a carrier for the cemetery division of the Public Works Department.
Please, Mr. Chasen.
So this is from Sale of Lots and Graves, which is a cemetery account, and it's to purchase it's a carrying device, which will bring the casket from the hearse over to the gravesite, and then the lowering device, which will lower it in. It's an absolutely necessary pieces of equipment.
Seems pretty straightforward. Thank you, Mr. Chasen. Councilor Vidal.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chase, a quick question for you. You referenced the minutes from November 24th regarding this casket lowering device and carrier. Is that referred to equipment purchase on the minutes? Because talks about a frigid streamliner complete. Is that what that's called, or is that something else?
Yeah, that's the exact piece of equipment that, the name of it, the one that we're going to purchase. But yes, that is what we reference. So, and that's from the cemetery commissions have to approve us to spend that money, and just showing that they did that.
Okay, so that's what it refers to. That's the specific branding, I guess, model. While
Yes.
it is actually, that is the casket lowering device and carrier. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Those are my only questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Cheers.
Thank you, Councilor Vidal. Councilor Blank, are you joining us again, or is your hand still raised from earlier? Guessing that was from earlier. What is it? Councilor McMinimum.
Thank you very much. So you are absolutely sure this is absolutely necessary. Do we already have one of these, Mr. Chasen?
Yes, we currently have one that we need to replace. I think Stu Lacrosse said he purchased it when he first started with the cemetery.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Madam Dean, thank you very much. You've all heard a sense of the motion. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chasen.
The next matter on the agenda is a request of the mayor to appropriate $116,000 from unreserved fund balance for improvements to Nicolmar Park and the Monsignor McCabe Playground.
Do I see
Yep,
Mr. Abruzzi? You are here. Thank you
I
very
am.
much.
Yep. Good evening again, everyone. I'm appearing this evening to request $116,000 for improvements to infields at both Nicolmar and Monsignor McCabe Playground. The Nicolmar field would be at the Jake Dennis Field, the Major League Diamond. The improvements would include regrading the field, leveling the fields, smoothing the transition between the infield and the outfield to correct the uneven conditions, improve the grade in the baselines, and widen the baselines as appropriate. A bid opening was held on February 27th, 2020. MJ Cataldo, who just recently completed Canilla Warren Park, was selected for the work pending funding. So I'm here tonight to seek funding.
Thank you, Mr. Abruzzi. On committee, I have Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Abruzzi, for coming in tonight. I just have a couple of questions. The bid said infield, but I went actually to the purchasing agent and scrolled through the whole thing.
Yep.
And there were definitions of the sod there as well. So are they replacing the grass, the outfield, as well as the dirt infield?
So what they have to do, that's a good question with regards to the infield, they're going to scrape the infield and then resod the field. And then the transition points where it goes, I don't know if you can picture, but it's running out from the infield to the outfield right now. A lot of the fields are starting to show a drop off. So when someone's looking up for a fly ball as they're running out from the infield to the outfield, it's a pretty significant drop. So similar to what we've had with the basketball courts and the spray parks and the tennis courts, we've gotten on a system where we've done these every couple of years to keep them up and running without deteriorating. We hope to do this same thing with the infields in the city because they're becoming, in my opinion, to a point where they're unsafe. So,
yeah, I walk in Nipperhauer a lot, and it's pretty soggy there after the rains some days, and you can definitely see where it's pooling behind the
certain
baseline
areas.
in some
Right.
areas. Yeah. So I appreciate that you're keeping an eye on that. And then the other part that caught my eye was that it looked like there were 60 days for completion after the project initiates. So I just wanted to double check what the timeline is for the work and when you anticipate it being scheduled.
Pending approval, as soon as weather permits, we'd like to get it done because of the sod. There won't be a downtime on the field once it's complete. The leagues will be able to get back to using the fields right away. So 60 would be definitely an accurate and attainable goal because they're smaller projects than what we're used to.
Okay, great. So I know that it's Ward 7 and Ward 4, I think, are the two playgrounds we're talking about right now. So I'm going to make a motion for approval, but it did look like the Ward 4 counselor had his hand up as well. So I hope he'll join me in supporting this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Mackin. On the motion, off committee, I have Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilor Mackin, for those comments. So I'm very familiar with Monsignor McCabe Field. And I want to just echo the director's comments about, the drop off between the infield and the outfield. In prepping the fields, when they're trying to get games in, especially with rain, they'll be sweeping water off. And when they do that, it builds up on the edges of the infield and the outfield. So this is something that was done, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Director, 10 years ago when we redid Monsignor McCabe, we did some major improvements there. I'm going to echo what I said earlier today. This is money well spent. The improvements that were made 10 years ago were for the whole park at Monsignor McCabe. And there were improvements made there that enhanced the neighborhood as a whole. You have no problem sending your kids down the park to go down and have fun. And we now have more of a mix of an older crowd, especially with COVID, using the walking track that's around the outside of the park. So again, kudos to the Park and Rec Department for your work here. And I would encourage the committee to support this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor McLaughlin. On committee, I have Councilor LaFosse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Abruzzi, thank you again for coming out tonight.
Sure.
Just a quick question. When we're doing these fields, Cornelia Warren came out beautiful. Are we doing irrigation on these infields as well? With the
On the bigger projects, typical of most projects that have fields, we will always do irrigation systems. The two locations that we're looking at now already have it built in, so that's part of the project to work around that. But anytime we do, the investment that we're making in the parks, like for Cornelia Warren, there was so much sod put in at that park that if we didn't have irrigation, that would have been a huge investment that we would have lost out on. So we try to do the irrigation everywhere.
And then as far as the maintenance and upkeep of these fields, are we using private landscape companies as far as fertilizer and pest control and cutting, or are we doing that all in-house once we spend all this money?
That would be on the CPW. They do the maintenance of the fields, and I'm pretty sure that most of the parks it's privatized. With the crew the crew that's with CPW does a fantastic job on the fields that they take care of. But I think a good portion of the fields are privatized, and we have started to bring companies in to look at doing some type of fertilizing programs to maintain the investments. We're putting millions of dollars into the fields, and without monitoring them and feeding the fields, we're going to see those dollars go down the drain.
That was exactly my point. I mean, it's great to see. So no further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Fosse. On the motion, you've all heard the sense of the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It is approved. Thank you for being here, Mr. Abruzzi.
Thank you all. Have a happy holidays.
Long evening.
Take care, everybody.
Mr. Sinafani, you are on mute, but I believe at this point I will take Councilor LaFosse makes a motion to take the one tabled item we have off the table regards to the WCAC request of $5,143.94. Is that correct, Mr. Sinafani?
Yes, it is.
On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It is before us. I believe the executive director of the WCAC, Maria Sheehan, is here before us.
Thank you.
Maria, thank you for joining us this evening. If you could give us just a quick breakdown of this, that would be greatly appreciated.
We needed more sound in Government Center because of social distancing. It was very hard to mic people. So we had to buy some more audio equipment in order to make sure that people were of safe distance and people at home could hear the meetings. So we purchased this equipment and we're asking for Verizon grant money to reimburse us for buying this equipment.
Okay, thank you very much for that. On committee, I have Councilor LaFosse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Sheehan, thank you for coming out tonight. My first question you just answered, I was wondering if the equipment has been put to use and purchased. So I'm assuming that was a yes.
Yes.
All right, because I guess one of the big questions I have is we're spending this money, but seeing that we're back on Zoom now, how is that going to work for us?
Well, you needed it. I mean, you needed it when you weren't on Zoom, and eventually you'll need it again. All of this equipment goes back to the city anyway. It's city equipment. It's not WCAC equipment. Anything that in the Government Center and up at City Hall and at the high school is owned by the city.
So it's not limited just to the Government Center. We can use it elsewhere when
Yes.
once we're out of this craziness.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Councilor LaFosse. So, wish for the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. You've all heard a sense of the motion. Thank you, Councilor Mackin. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It is approved. Machine, thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you very much. Have a great night and happy holidays.
You as well. Thank you. With that, Councilor Vidal makes a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 9:43. Thank you very much.
God bless whoever just sneezed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I heard you over here on Beale Road, Paul. Joe, we all set?
We are. I just have to unmute myself. I'm ready to go.
Okay. I call the Ordinances and Rules Committee to order and ask the clerk to take the roll.
Councilor Darcy.
Present.
Councilor Dunn.
Present.
Councilor Harris.
Present.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Present.
Chairman McLaughlin.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, all 5 members are present.
Mr. Clerk, did we have minutes?
Yeah, I sent you minutes from the last meeting.
Councilor Dunn moves approval of the minutes from, what's the date, Mr. Clerk? I don't have it in front of me.
7th, December 7th.
December 7th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you could read the first new matter.
First new matter is a communication from the law department regarding 225 Waverly Oaks Road.
So just to the committee, I spoke with Attorney Learned. She wasn't available to be in tonight. She will be available to speak to us in the future. So I'm going to accept a motion from Councilor Harris to table this matter for the time being. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you could read the next matter.
Special permit modification, 305 Second Avenue, Middlesex Integrative Medicine.
And Councilor LeBlanc moves to hear from all off-committee members. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Attorney Connors, I believe you are here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You may recall this project is Middlesex Integrated Medicine up at 305 Second Avenue. So Last year, the city council granted a special permit for them to open a medical marijuana facility up at 305 Second Ave. So in the course of submitting their permit applications, actually, they had changed the floor plan to a minor degree, and so therefore, based on that, when they did file the permit application, the building inspectors rejected it because the floor plan had changed. So this is a request to modify the special permit that was approved. We're not creating any greater floor area. Essentially, we had to relocate some restrooms and the size of the restrooms within the footprint of what was already approved by the council. Tonight with me here is Nancy Corey and Ed Bartlett. They're principals of the company, but also Ryan Noon is the architect. So maybe Ryan can just talk briefly about how we are kind of changing the floor plan, and the particular reason for it. I think it had to do with really compliance with the state plumbing code. Ryan?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Noon. I'm with Embark Studio. So Joe gave a good intro. So essentially, we have relocated 2 restrooms that we have previously shown and grouped them to the right-hand corner of the plan. And I'm going to share my screen just so, actually, I don't have the capability to share.
Joe, can you give him access?
Yeah, he should be able to now.
Okay.
You got it, Ryan?
Yeah, I do, if everyone can see my screen here. So we previously we had 2 restrooms that were where my mouse is at the top of the screen, and we've relocated them to the bottom right-hand corner of the facility and ganged them together in an effort to combine plumbing and to be closer to the waste outlet within the building. If we built the restrooms where we had them previously, we'd have to use an ejector pump to get sewage out of the building, and we're trying to comply with the plumbing code, and that is to drain the waste lines by gravity where possible. So that's the most substantial change. Other minor changes are relocations of small interior rooms within the facility, but mainly as a result of moving the restrooms out of this corner of the facility. So as Joe said, no increase in floor area. In fact, we've actually reduced the point of sale locations. We previously had 25 point of sale counters, which are, I'm kind of tracing them with my mouse. Now we have 13 total. So we've reduced those mostly to comply with social distancing and the impact that COVID has had on the industry.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Welcome.
Attorney Connors, anything to add, or did you have any other speakers?
No, that's it. I mean, I think it's a straightforward. All we're doing is just changing the footprint of the floor plan, but it's still within the footprint of what we had there before, and it's more to comply with the state plumbing code than anything else. So that was it, and that's why we did it as a minor modification. You know, we're still looking to build the project, and we need to amend this in order for the building inspector to ultimately approve the revised floor plan.
Just to be clear to those tuned in, so this is a medical marijuana facility?
Yes, this is medical marijuana that was approved by the full council, and it's going back, I think it was a year ago. I think it was October 18th, 2019, thereabouts. So it's strictly medical marijuana at this time, and nothing else is approved for that particular site.
Great. Thank you, Attorney Connors. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, no trouble unmuting. A couple of my questions were answered. So just to reiterate, there is no change to the exterior walls, and this is just simple interior partition moving around and some plumbing modifications?
I would say yes. Ryan, could you respond to that too?
That's correct. Yep.
And so at this time, it's medical only. And do you foresee coming in the future, for retail use, for retail marijuana sales?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions from counselors? What is the wish of the committee?
Move to approve?
Counselor Dunn moves approval. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Connors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Mr. Clerk, would you like me to send you a proposed order, or you draft one yourself?
No, can you just send me one in Word form?
Sure. And I'll just take it right out of the letter I sent to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Council LeBlanc moves to take exempting city from zoning from the table. I don't have my docket in front of me. What's the date on that, Mr. Clerk? Do you have that?
Yeah, I will have to look. It is.
First.
4/8/2019.
4/8/2019.
4/8/2019, resolution to exempt municipal projects from zoning. Council LeBlanc moves to take that from the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Council LeBlanc moves to hear from all off-committee members. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Attorney Azadi, welcome.
To us here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Council LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. This is one of those items that's been on the docket for a while. And I first want to thank Attorney Azadi for coming in over the past year and working on this matter and supplying us with, I think, 2 law opinions. And we've also been working with the building commissioner. We've had him in on this matter also to try to resolve some of these issues. So if Attorney Azadi could take us through where we've been in. Like I said, we had the building commissioner in on this, and he gave us in writing his opinion and statements, which I was very much in favor of. So if you could just give us a walkthrough of where we are now, I'd appreciate that for the committee and those watching at home.
Certainly. I have actually provided 3 opinions to the committee. The first was in February of 2020. The second was July 10th of 2020, and the third was July 31st of 2020. And what we've done is gone through and analyzed the possible sections of the zoning ordinance that could be impacted by changes to the way municipal uses are handled. And municipal uses can be broken down into 2 categories under the zoning ordinance. First, actual uses, so zones where municipal uses are permitted. The second would be dimensional and other similar types of requirements such as parking. Under uses, municipal uses are allowed in all but the limited commercial, industrial, and conservation recreation areas. There's not really an explanation that I've been able to locate as to why municipal uses are not allowed in the 3 non-con rec districts. In fact, it seems as if it would be something that would be appropriate to have. If you need a fire station, for example, in the commercial district, the way the ordinance is currently drafted, you would have to have a zoning amendment to authorize a fire station to be placed in one of those 3 districts. So it makes a lot of sense to amend the ordinance to address that issue sooner rather than later. With respect to the con rec district, you may want to leave that out of the municipal building and use sections, except
Attorney Azadi, I think you've muted yourself.
Oh,
No, you're okay. We only lost you for a sec.
okay. So I don't know where I cut out. It might have been on the discussion of Conrec district.
Conrec is right where we lost you.
Yes, okay. Conrec district should allow municipal uses at least that are related to recreational activities. But other than that, there's really no reason to add any other municipal uses to that zoning district. Going over to the dimensional requirements that currently exist under the zoning ordinance, there are 3 options to amend the ordinance. The first would be to completely exempt municipal uses and buildings from all zoning requirements. That would be height, setback, frontage, and all other similar provisions of the zoning ordinance. The second would be to amend the ordinance in such a way that only the usual requirements of the underlying zoning district apply, rather than any special conditions that currently may apply to certain municipal uses. The third option would be to establish special requirements specifically for particular types of municipal uses. That would be, for example, if you had something in a residential zone that was not expected to generate a lot of traffic, you could have a specific requirement for that particular use that did not impose the parking requirements that would generally apply in other districts or to other uses. Breaking it down a bit further, in the zoning ordinance currently, there is a definition of municipal buildings. And from the first opinion I provided back in February of this year, I made a recommendation that that definition be changed. Currently, it specifically identifies public administration, public services, and public safety uses as uses in municipal buildings. Public services, however, is an all-encompassing definition. And generally, both administration and public safety would be included under that definition. To avoid any confusion as to whether or not you're actually trying to separate out certain municipal uses, my recommendation is that you amend that language so that it states specifically that municipal uses, including but not limited to administration, public safety, and education, are included within the definition. And as you've indicated in your initial request, you still want to exempt, or rather exclude from the definition of municipal buildings any residential use, so you could still maintain that portion of the definition of municipal buildings. I wanted to give a little bit of history to the committee, just to explain why it might be advisable for you to take some kind of action with respect to the control the zoning ordinance currently has over municipal uses. Years ago.
Pat, we lost you again.
Attorney Azadi, you hit your mute button again.
Yeah, sorry, I have a surface here. My notepad is sliding up over it.
No worries.
I was just briefly touching on the history of zoning as it applies to municipal buildings in the city. Years ago, when we had the last major school building program, there were a number of schools that were constructed or added to, and we required the assistance of an outside attorney to actually present cases to the Board of Appeals to get zoning relief for all of these buildings. If municipal buildings were exempt from zoning, or there were special provisions relating to municipal buildings, that wouldn't have been necessary. Those types of actions going to the zoning board cause delays in construction and can in fact lead to additional expenses relating to construction. So that's one of the things I'm sure the council is considered considering in looking at exempting municipal buildings from zoning. Another example would be the fire station that is just being finished on Moody Street. The zoning ordinance provides that no building may have a driveway opening within 100 feet of an intersection. Because of the nature of that fire station, driveways were required because the fire station takes up an entire block. That required a special permit application to the Board of Survey and Planning, as did another provision of the zoning ordinance that generally prohibits a driveway in excess of 25 feet without a special permit, also from the Board of Survey and Planning. So again, these are the types of issues that the committee should be examining to determine what zoning provisions it actually wants to have applicable to municipal buildings. I wrote, as I said, the first opinion in February. I actually appeared at the committee on June 15th, 2020. And at that time, I reviewed all of these issues. Subsequent to that meeting, I went through the zoning ordinance and provided you with 2 opinions that identify all of the sections that could be impacted with respect to municipal buildings. But at the June 15th meeting, I had indicated that the law department is ready and willing to draft an ordinance for the committee, but it's within the discretion of the committee to decide exactly what the parameters of that ordinance would be. So at this point, we're just waiting for the committee to decide exactly what form it wants that ordinance to take.
Thank you, Attorney Azadi. Council LeBlanc, any questions?
Yeah, I just touch base on one of the items here. The first section on the law opinion you gave to us February 1st seems to make perfect sense. Municipal buildings and governmental facilities, including but not limited to, and then excluding the housing, makes perfect sense. The question I have is, as far as the dimensional exemptions, just a thought in my head is, one is, the first one you stated was to completely, exempt the city from municipal zoning. And the second one is the usual zoning district, which is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that is following basically the zoning and the table of uses for that area or that neighborhood. So if they had a 15-foot setback, some of the neighborhoods are tighter than others and some of them are larger than the others. That would be number 2, the usual zoning, so that the municipal use would sort of fit the zone because it would be using the current zoning of the neighborhood. And number 3 was the special one. But can you just take us through number 2 a little bit? It seems like it would be, to my opinion, a little more appropriate for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, as an example, I think the current situation with respect to the high school might be the most appropriate one to look at. In the residential district, there are specific side yard, rear yard, front yard setbacks. The zoning table, section 4.11 for dimensional requirements, has an additional section of footnotes, and the footnotes provide additional levels of dimensional requirements, particularly with respect to the high school. Again, as an example, the subsection 11 of 4.12 provides certain greater than normal setbacks for educational institutions. It's my understanding that that ordinance provision was drafted originally to address the 2 colleges in the city, but the way it's written, it includes municipal educational institutions. If you were to go with the regular zoning requirements of the district for municipal buildings, then footnote 11 of section 4.12 would not apply. You would be going with the regular residential setbacks of the district. And the same would be true in any other district. You would need to look at each of the proposed building uses and the underlying districts and determine whether or not you feel those adequately address any needs of any municipal buildings you might construct within those particular districts.
Mhm. All right, that would be my thought on it, to have it in keeping with the neighborhoods and not totally exempt the dimensions from that. So with that said, I'll make a motion for approval, but obviously with the comments and questions from committee members.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. Councilor Darcy. Councilor Darcy?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So first off, as a matter of bookkeeping, there's been 3 law opinions, February 2nd, 2020, July 10th, 2020, and July 31st, 2020. So I would make a motion to release these 3 law opinions so that the public can read them.
You've heard a sense of the motion. All those.
And I state, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I don't think they have to be redacted because they're just informational.
On the motion, Councilor Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to speak on this motion. I don't think as this committee, although I respect the council from Ward 3's desire to bring this forward. This meeting is public. It's being recorded. Its minutes are public. And it is an open forum. That being said, as we deliberate any matter that is tied to an ordinance, we don't release information as we're working to deliberate. It can all be released. It's all public as we work through the deliberation. We have the law department here. We've worked on this tirelessly for consideration. This is not a fast track. It is the absolute opposite of. And I talked about this last week on another matter where it takes years to sometimes modify ordinances. I think what we're trying to understand here tonight is, and I will not be supporting that motion because that's unprecedented. We don't do that in this committee, and I will not support it, and I hope this committee does not support it. It sets a horrible precedent for the due diligence that this committee is known for and needs to do. What we need to do is the work of this ordinance, which is, tonight we have Attorney Azadi. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Through you to the councilor from Linden Circle, you made a motion to approve, which would be to approve your original resolution point of information, Mr. Chairman, or are you asking the law department to help us draft something that would be in keeping with neighborhoods and neighborhood relations or compliance? Can you just clarify, Mr. Chairman, through you, if the councilor from Linden Circle could just clarify that, please?
Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Ward 8 councilor. That is correct. Making a motion for approval to have the law department just draft an opinion, a zoning ordinance for a first draft for us to work on. So I am in agreement with the councilor from Ward 8.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, point of parliamentary procedure. Right now, we have a motion to approve, to release the 3 law department opinions while we're in deliberations. Is that the matter before us, Mr. Chairman?
Councilor LeBlanc, well, technically, Councilor LeBlanc has made a motion to approve his resolution. Councilor Darcy on that motion is stating he'd like to release the legal opinions. That's
Okay, but sorry, Mr. Chairman, but if we approve the resolution, then that dissolves that matter from our docket and we have nothing to deliberate. So I would like to, if I can, we'll go through parliamentary procedure here. I would like to, I just asked a question of the councilor from Linden Circle. Does he wish to withdraw or amend his motion based on the question I just asked him? Because what was put forward is a motion to approve. If it's approved, the resolution is no longer before us and it's no longer on our docket, and then it doesn't allow us with 2 years to get here. I don't think we want to dissolve that. So is that the right next step if we're going to amend the original motion?
Well, it's not to amend the original motion, but I mean, Councilor LeBlanc, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so if I misspoke or got it wrong, my intention is to make a request that the law department draft up a zoning ordinance to make these changes.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, just to repeat that, it's a request to the law department to draft an initial version of this ordinance change in keeping with the considerations that we brought forward, like neighborhoods and the like. So I just want to make sure that's what we're voting on first, or are we voting on that motion of request to release the law department opinions?
No, Councilor LeBlanc's motion is first, and I agree that we shouldn't just approve the resolution and send it out. We should do some work on it and have some language. But I'm going to read Attorney Azadi's mind right now, where she's saying, tell me what you want us to do. So we need to do that and give her that language so they can craft that ordinance. I think that's the best course of action. Councilor Darcy, I haven't forgotten about you, but so Councilor LeBlanc, you'd like to move in a direction where we're asking the law department to craft language for an ordinance that would cover this municipal use for zoning issues, correct?
That is correct, based on her opinion of the February 1st on the municipal projects and leaving the public housing development in there, and then crafting the ordinance based on the number 2 that she stated on the usual zoning districts.
So we're going to vote on that first, and then I'm going to ask Attorney Azadi a question, and then we're going to go back to Councilor Darcy. So on
the motion.
On the motion, Councilor Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So one, I do think it's important, like I said, there is transparency in this conversation. It's gone on for 2 years. It's been on our docket. It's been something that we've deliberated and talked about. There are 3 opinions because the due diligence is there, and it's going to continue. So I don't think halfway through a deliberation, we release anything that we're doing and allow things to be taken out of context. It's a public meeting. It's recorded. People can gain access to anything we're doing. So there's nothing that's not transparent or above board here. The most important thing that I think is paramount to the public, and just the emails that I'm sensitive to that I receive, is, people understanding really what is the application of these legal opinions. These legal opinions have happened in specific points in time based on specific questions of this committee. And I think what's important is, in order for us as a committee to do the due diligence and truly, react or debate whether this and the impacts of this ordinance change, is to ask Attorney Azadi to do that draft. Councilor LeBlanc has shaped a request that could go in writing. We could further clarify in this committee if Attorney Azadi wants any further clarifications. But again, all of this will be in writing and transparent. And I think to say, well, we're going to release half of this while we're waiting for the legal actual draft of the application of the law, it just takes things out of context. And we've never done that on this committee the 3 years I've sat here. So I will not be supporting that. I will be supporting the request to ask the law department to put in legal speak what the application looks like of these three legal opinions so that we can further shape this resolution. And again, by no means is this a fast track. This is truly to debate, deliberate in transparent ways, and get opinions and feedback from our constituents, kind of where we are with this. And I will be supporting that. One other thing I will say, the one project that was referenced in Attorney Azzadi's forward application is the Moody Street Fire Station. I'm the one counselor sitting on this committee that's actually taken something through the gauntlet, if you will, of zoning changes, of ZBA. And it is an arduous journey. In almost all cases, you are approved. You still have to follow the rules of zoning. You still have to follow the rules of ordinances. We didn't build the Moody Street Fire Station 5 stories high. We were in keeping with what we needed to do for the neighborhood. We were respectful. But I think to ask the city to go before these committees and work through this, it actually took copious hours away from the law department. It took copious hours away from committees, and other things didn't get done that are city business. And I think that is the intent of this. It's not to bypass neighborhoods and neighborhood opinions. It's not to bypass what constituents think, because I've never stood for that. My record is very clear. And we built a fire station double the size on the corner of Moody and Main, one of the busiest business districts, abutted by neighbors and residents. And we didn't have complaints because we worked through the constituency piece. So we will continue to do that. I think what we're trying to do is right size some of the applications of our ordinances to help support the municipal work that's happening throughout our city. And so by tonight supporting this, it doesn't end the debate. It continues an actual concrete debate about a legal opinion from our own law department based on 3 other legal opinions that we've asked for. So I think this is moving the ball forward, albeit at a slower pace, but I think that's the role of government, and that's the transparency of this work. I will be supporting this. Thank you for allowing me to explain myself.
So on Councilor LeBlanc's motion, first time around, Councilor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this still leaves us options after the legal language is presented to us to make changes to that and suggestions. This is for more discussion, and we're not voting on anything until we get that paperwork. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm okay voting for getting that legal opinion in writing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second time around, Councilor Darcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I want my constituents to be fully aware of potential changes to the zoning ordinances. And the Ordinance and Rules Committee releases law opinions all of the times so that A, the applicant can address the issues first raised by the law department, and that B, so that the public can also weigh in on these important matters. It's done all of the time. We've voted maybe 10 or 15 times this year to release law opinions from the law department. The city of Waltham is the largest landowner, and to not release the 3 attorneys' letters goes against full transparency in government. It goes against the very fabric of open government. And I can't support this at this time due to this secretive refusal to even allow the residents to read what our lawyers have written about municipal zone changes. So at this point in time, I can't support this. And for you, as you know, the correspondences from the law department to the city council typically come in the title confidential - attorney-client privileged. And that's why typically, as we have done, we vote to release these opinions. And even in some instances, the chair will redact anything that's controversial. I've read these 3 opinions and they're totally non-controversial. They're just informational to provide information to the city council on what could be done to enhance the zoning as it pertains to municipal uses. So, I don't understand why we can't release these. This goes against full transparency. This is an open government. We are an open government. So I will not be supporting this matter.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. So just, I allowed a little leeway in the discussion, but just so we're clear, right now, and I'm going to go back to Councilor LeBlanc on this, we're voting on Councilor LeBlanc's request to move this forward and ask that the law department craft some language for an ordinance change. Councilor Darcy, I'm going to come back to you on the request to release the opinions after that. Councilor LeBlanc, you're next, second time.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm a little confused by the secretive. We've been at this for 2 years in public meetings, and everything's been public and transparent. And I agree with the councilor for more day. As we're working on this, to simply put that out there and have things context and flipped around and then have a public campaign, I have no interest in that. So I will continue to work on this. And then as it comes out, when we get the first draft, we're going to continue to be open and transparent and work on it and take all opinions on the matter. So.
Okay, thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. Councilor Dunn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for a point of clarification, when will the public be brought in to give, their feedback and input on this document that we're talking about creating?
So I'll be honest with you. Both all the councilors have mentioned this has been on the docket. This has been a discussion that's been going on for quite a while. We've had the law department address this 3 separate times. So it's public in that sense right there. The request to release the law opinions, that's secondary. We're going to vote on that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, what we're voting on is moving ahead, asking the law department to craft some language that we will then get back and chew on and then see if we want to make additional changes to that. That's what this vote is right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So on Councilor LeBlanc's motion, all those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call's been requested. Clerk Vizard.
We are on Council LeBlanc's motion to send a request to the law department, right?
Yes.
Councilor Darcy.
No.
Councilor Dunn.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Yes.
Does the chair wish to vote?
Chair votes yes.
But 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilor Darcy, you have a request to release the 3 law opinions. On that motion, we've already had some discussion with Councilor Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to speak one more time on this because I feel that it's important to speak about open government. We have an open government. Our meetings are recorded. Our minutes are presented. We do everything in transparent ways on this committee. And this committee, the 3 years I have served on this, has done nothing but due diligence. And I've served proudly alongside the Ward 3 councilor. While I understand there may be reasons and motivations for him wanting to release the law department opinion, I think what also we have to be careful of is we release opinions, but there's no concreteness to those opinions. There'll be no concreteness to the questions that were asked. There'll be no application of those opinions. They'll simply be opinions that will be interpreted by the general public who don't have the privilege to be able to ask Attorney Azadi what the clarifying questions are. I see no need to release those at this time because we've just asked Attorney Azadi and just voted successfully for Attorney Azadi to actually, on a request, draft what an ordinance would look like. At that point, we're going to have a public hearing. We're going to be able to release the legal opinions in the context of that. And we're going to be seeking, not only through email and wanting to share in Ward 3, but Ward 2, Ward 7, Ward 9, Ward 1 are going to, and Ward 8 are going to want to weigh in, as well as the councilors at large. The whole city gets to weigh in at that point. So there is no delay tactic here. There is no lack of transparency here. Government is a process, and it is a slow process. I talked about this a couple weeks ago with another matter, and this has been 2 years in the making. What we have just voted on tonight was to actually ask the law department and the esteemed Attorney Azadi to actually put together what a draft would look like. That will be available to us in this committee and deliberated in this committee alongside the legal opinions. And then, and only when we feel comfortable in this committee that we have fully shaped this and addressed the constituency, are we actually going to take this out per our council rules and seek public opinion through a public hearing. And at that point, to the ward, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Ward 3 councilor, we can release anything that needs to be released. But to not allow, these are very dense statements, they're very pointed questions that were asked. To just release legal opinions without the context of something that we've just asked the law department to do will be further explaining a position that isn't even formed. There is no position. This is a process. It's the other word that begins with a P. It's called process, and we need to follow it in order to shape an actual ordinance that we can actually seek public opinion. And I definitely want to hear from Ward 3 residents and Ward 2 residents and Ward 8 residents, because this will impact every single ward. Plus, the at-large councilors also field a lot of questions and frustrations through many of these projects. So there will be ample opportunity for that public input. Then that comes back to this committee. It comes back here with the public opinion on the record, and we do further work, which will likely take another year or more to do. So I just want to be clear about where we are with this and the context under which we're operating and the process under which we're executing on. Because to not support legal opinions to be released does not mean we're not supporting transparent government. It's 100% open. It's just simply executing to the next step in the process, which is to ask the law department to say, hey, you've given us 3 legal opinions around questions that we've asked as a committee. Let's not release that out of context. Let's get a legal, actual shaped ordinance, and then let's rework that in committee where councilors from Wards 2 and 3 and at large and Ward 4 and 8 can bring forward further amendments and further shaping of this ordinance. And when this committee is ready, and only when this committee is ready, would this be voted out of committee and move forward for public hearing, in which case, citywide, we can release anything we need. It'll be totally available. People will have ample time because of the advertising lead time on a public hearing to actually digest the information, shape, and come before the council. And I'm going to say it again because it's important. We will have those public hearings in public, and then we will take all that feedback as a committee and bring this back and then reshape this ordinance again. And then and only then would we ask further legal opinion. So this is not a lack of transparency. This is to move this forward transparently, but the legal opinions are very, in some cases we ask specific questions. Those would not be released at the same time. So this isn't a lack of transparency. This is wanting the public to have the whole picture before they weigh in on it. Because what if there's a misunderstanding? That's occurred. Misunderstandings have occurred. We don't want to drive that in our community. We want to be able to bring people together around this. And if the community is not in support, then we won't do this. But I think to just release part of a legal opinion at the same time we ask the law department to go forward and draft an ordinance, I think is taking things out of context. And I have deep respect for the councilor from Ward 3, but I will not be supporting this because I just outlined twice what the process is. This is open government at its best. This is open government at work. And we should recognize it, applaud it, and laud it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Harris. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I had my hand up from prior speaking. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to release the three legal opinions, Councilor Darcy's motion. On the motion,
Mr. Chair,
Councilor Darcy, sorry.
thank you. I'd just like to say one final word.
Okay. Yep.
That this committee releases legal opinions all the time to lawyers that represent people getting special permits, licenses, grants of location. But suddenly this committee cannot release legal opinions to our own constituents. This is very non-transparent. I have a great deal of faith in my constituents for their knowledge and their understanding, and for them to read the missives of our law department, and for them to fully understand the nuances and impacts of potential changes to our zoning ordinances, as the city of Waltham is the largest landowner. Thank you very much, and I ask for a roll call.
We'll take a roll call. The only thing I want to point out with those comments, Councilor Darcy, is that on the special permits, there's a deliberation process that goes on between the petitioner and the committee. And after that deliberation process is completed is when we send it to the law department. And I don't think we're anywhere near that at this point with this discussion. So roll call on Councilor Darcy's motion.
1 second.
Yep. So this is to release the three opinions.
Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Councilor Dunn,
No.
Councilor Harris,
No.
Councilor LeBlanc.
No.
Does the chair wish to vote?
Chair votes yes. Chair votes no.
1 in favor, 5 opposed.
Very good. Councilor Darcy? So
Thank
you're welcome. I had not realized we were going to run this late. And I had talked about trying to clean up the docket. I'm going to push that off to next week, but I'd ask you just to double down on your efforts to take a hard look at the docket and look at some of the items that are both old and or stale so that we can clean those up before the end of the calendar year. I appreciate that work. Any other matters? What is the wish of the committee?
I think you still need to table this, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
Point of information.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Point of information before that gets tabled. Do I put that request?
So before we table that, and I said I was going to do this, Councilor Zadi, I hope you're still here with us.
Yes, I am.
So that was a longer discussion than I anticipated, but with our goal being that we want to craft language to address this issue, you're going to look to us for specifics of that, correct?
That's correct.
So
Want me to read back what I have, Mr. Chairman?
I'd need additional information from the committee as to specific items it would like to have included.
Okay, hold right there. Mr. Clerk, can you read what you have?
So I have that Councilor LeBlanc was looking to have Attorney Azadi make the cleanup to the definition of municipal uses in the zoning amendment, and to have municipal uses only track to whatever the residential use, whatever the
Underlying district has.
whatever the underlying district uses were, with excluding footnotes. Is that the way I'd say that?
Yes.
So let's do this. So Attorney Azadi, you're going to get a request from the clerk through Councilor LeBlanc that will have that information in there. And if you can give us something back on that, we'll work from that outline.
Okay. I did want to raise one other point. I'm not sure the committee has actually voted on this aspect of it. As I had mentioned at the beginning, there are 3 non-con-rec districts where municipal buildings currently aren't allowed. Do you want to also have language amending the ordinance so that the limited commercial, and industrial zones can in fact have municipal buildings?
Councilor LeBlanc, do you have any opinion on that?
I would say yes on that. And there was one other point I wanted to make was that, as this originated and we had the building commissioner in, he had provided us a letter, I believe, that had 6 bullet points on there. And in one of the opinions from Attorney Azadi, I believe in the opinion, I have to go back and review it again. She pretty much, I wouldn't say agreed with it, but there was one issue which I did read and agree with her that it was on the parking requirements. It was like the third item, and it said, and basically, in her opinion, it was scratched that the parking requirements of the design would be set forth by the building inspector, and that it would be a good idea to give discretion. So I agree in that, if that helps clarify it all.
So, Councilor LeBlanc, if you can just work with the clerk to put pen to paper so that we can give, we can point Attorney Azadi in the right direction on this. And then once we get something back from you, Attorney Azadi, we'll chew on that and we'll see if we want to expand or if we want to pull back on it at all.
Okay, very good.
All right, very good. We appreciate your bearing with us on this. Councilor LeBlanc moves to place that matter back on the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? What is the wish of the committee?
Adjourn?
Councilor Dunn moves to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, have it. Thank you. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Happy
Thank you, you
holidays.
too.
Thank you.
Same to you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.